And if we focus, we can feel it all around us. It isn't that it appears, but that we finally notice that it's there. It's in the way that we stick up for each other, the way that we allow each other to grow. It's in the hard work of the people who make this church run. It is in the love between family and friends, parents and children. And it is easy to sense this connection between us. But what is harder is to sense the connection we have between all the strangers out there, those who disagree with us, and those who make our lives difficult. But basic human worth belongs to everyone. And when we have times of inspiration or enlightenment or attainment, or we glimpse what some call the universe, or the ground of being, or the sacred, it can help broaden our compassion. I'd like to explore several strands of this web of life that need strengthening today. And I hope that you'll remember the times in your life when you've had a hand in strengthening these connections, in protecting someone else, in furthering justice, in trying to be balanced in your thinking. And this is a poem by Jane Brown for the feminine in all of us. It's called Finding Her Here. I am becoming the woman I've wanted, gray at the temples, soft body, delighted, cracked up by life, with a laugh that's known bitter, but past it got better. Knows she's a survivor, that whatever comes, she can outlast it. I am becoming a deep, weathered basket. I am becoming the woman I've longed for, with arms strong and tender, the growing daughter who blushes surprises. I am becoming full moons and sunrises. I find her becoming this woman that I've wanted, who knows she'll encompass, who knows she's sufficient, knows where she's going, and travels with passion, who remembers she is precious, but knows she's not scarce, who knows plenty. She is plenty to share. I'd like to tell you a story from when I was young. And I would imagine that each of us have had an experience like this. There was a turning point in my life. The boy stood on the playground taunting me. "Where are your eyebrows?" he asked. "Don't you have any eyelashes?" And I blushed, ashamed of my white blonde hair and pale skin. I didn't realize he was probably just having fun, or maybe trying to get my attention. But he also gave me a nickname that I hated, which was Glacier, I suppose a pun on my Nordic heritage. But I worried that the kids thought I was cold or colorless because I was so shy. I had the usual insecurities of a 7-year-old. But across the playground, I saw a girl who I thought was just beautiful. Big brown eyes, long eyelashes, and defined eyebrows that you could see clear across the playground. Beautiful dark skin. And I sighed, thinking she was everything that I wanted to be. No one would call her Glacier. We became friends, and we played every lunchtime recess together, and I imagine she was in the grade ahead of me because the only time I saw her was at recess. I was in Northern California, and there was a long row of fragrant pine trees on one side of the playground. And we would sit under those trees on the bed of pine needles. One day she suggested that we bring our Barbies to school the next day so we could play with them. I only had one standard blonde Barbie. She had a Skipper and a Christie, which was the black Barbie that Mattel produced starting 1968. I had never seen one before, and I thought the doll was beautiful. And as we played, she put Christie down, and I picked her up to admire her hair and her outfit. But my friend's reaction shocked me. She snatched the doll out of my hands, and she said something that hurt me deeply. She said, "Don't play with that dirty thing." And she pressed the blonde Barbie back into my hands. "You play with this one," she said. And I was angry and indignant. I didn't understand. I said, "Christie is beautiful." And she just laughed at my confused face. "Silly white girl," she said. And I was just furious, not at her, but because I began to see something that I had never seen before. It was a rush of feelings that I couldn't have explained to anyone. I didn't have words big enough. I wanted a world where everyone was beautiful, that every color meant nothing more than the variety among flowers. And I suddenly realized that that world didn't exist. I didn't blame her. I knew enough then to know that this was something she had been taught, or something pressed on her unfairly to even think that there was something such as clean or dirty just because of skin tone. And when you realize that things are this unfair, it's a common reaction to get angry. In other words, I didn't even want to know about this problem, but my friend had to live with it every single day of her life. In fact, it's probably a matter of my privilege that I wish things were simple, and that I feel guilt at being a part of the history that has caused this problem. And it's a subject of injustice that has gone back centuries. And yet we still see its effect every single day in our news. People are still working for more justice, trying to correct the wrongs being done systematically in our country. And as long as people are judged by the color of their skin, our work isn't done. And to add to the problem, all of a sudden it seems in the last few years it has become common to hear complaints of oppression against white people, of all the ridiculous things, that there is something called white racism, that whites are being treated unfairly and Christianity under attack. I wonder sometimes if these aren't just tactics to change the subject or reject any guilt, or to fight against the sharing of power. In any case, the work goes on, and we continue to do what we can to be allies. This is what the Web of Life asks of us, that we speak up for others, that we reach out, that we stand beside those who need us. But for another much more recent example, I was walking in the mall, and ahead of me I saw a tall, young, slim man that I recognized. He worked in the cosmetics company of a large store, and he had helped me and my daughter with makeup for my daughter's wedding. He was walking quickly as I was. I was just a few steps behind, and I admired his shoes, which were long, narrow, finely crafted black leather shoes, as elegant and slim as he was himself. He walked like a panther, softly, steadily making his way among the shoppers. He had his uniform on, long black pants and a black dress shirt. His hair was cut neat and short above his ears, but he wore a smoky combination of gray and purple eyeshadow, expertly applied, and it contrasted beautifully with his hair, which was about the color of mine. And over one carefully shaped eyebrow, he had a bright gold crescent of eyeliner. He had very long, elegant eyelashes and beautiful features, not feminine, but he wasn't a sight that you see much in our area. He carried a canvas bag with leather handles, a man purse, I guess, as Southerners call it. And I recognized an opportunity. I followed behind, and I decided to watch how he was treated as we walked through the mall. At first, I wasn't surprised to see that men over the age of 50 looked at him long and hard with contempt etched deep in their face, verging on hatred. And my face began to burn. It wasn't even directed at me, but it felt awful. Most of his attention was focused on his cell phone in one hand, although he never once got in anyone's way or faltered as he walked. And so I imagine these men felt free to glare at him without being observed. Now, my daughters say that when they're in trouble, I don't need to say a word. There's just this look. They say that can pierce them through. And I wondered what would happen if I gave them that look. And so I did. I'm not saying this is right. But I did. I just mirrored their feelings back at them. And because I was just a step or two behind this young man, I was the first thing they saw. And the result was just astonishing. They looked at me and recoiled in shock, flushing, embarrassed. Most of them looked quickly at the floor so they didn't have to meet my gaze. One elderly man with white hair came to a complete halt in the aisle, and he stared at the floor, unmoving as I walked by. His neck was red. He looked the picture of shame. And I don't know if I caused any of them to think twice or reconsider their prejudice, but I felt for a few short minutes what was directed at this young man most likely every day of his life. How does a person go through life and not become bitter? He's always treated me with such politeness. And I wondered, how could they just take one look at him and hate his guts? What is it about that? What is he harming them? People may not realize how absolutely palpable emotions are and judgments, how you can just project such energy, both negative and positive. But if you're encountering it day after day after day, I wonder, how do you retain your balance? I also wonder if we remember what a small gesture of kindness can do, what incredible power a smile has to someone who may not often get one, that such tiny things that we could do could bring a moment of relief or cheer someone up. We have the power to send energy that helps. Statistics say that people who don't obey gender stereotypes have the highest rates of physical violence or hate crimes committed against them compared to any other group right now. And that's just so wrong. I don't even have words for how awful that is. But the problem of how we treat those who are very different doesn't seem to be something that a lot of people even worry about or think about. It's like they don't care. As a trip to Florida showed me, I sat next to a woman on an airplane on our way to Orlando, and she told me that she had lived in Orlando for decades. But she was griping about how much it had changed, and she finally said, you don't hardly even see a white person in Disney World anymore. And I, had by that time had enough. As I get older, I'm worried about myself. I said, what? You only want blonde people in Disney World? And she had dark hair, and she flushed, and I had made my point, and she dropped the subject. And we started talking about something else. But as I walked through Disney World, it gave me new eyes to see the many colors, the many nationalities. And I looked at it with appreciation. But I also came upon a group of nuns. I don't think they were from the United States. They had on the old-fashioned habits. They may have been postulants because their veils were quite short. But they walked 2 by 2. They had long black tights and sensible shoes and long black skirts. But I saw them many times that day in different places, giggling, excited, having so much fun. And they made me think deeply, because at first they gave me that pang of, ugh, that's the thing I need to work on. It made me think about diversity and how you have to work on it even when it's hard. But watching the nuns also gave me an idea, and see what you all think of this. I wonder sometimes if special rules, special ways of eating, or special claims of being the chosen one, if people become too cloistered among their own people, those who believe like they do, those who think like they do, those who vote like they do, then does it influence the way you treat people who are not wearing a habit or a long dress, or a headscarf, or a sari? Religious rules can sometimes cause prejudice. And if the practitioner isn't careful, it can shut off the normal senses of compassion. Sometimes bad religion teaches us to hate. And this can be further exacerbated by skin color or nationality. I think that one of the problems with traditional religions or beliefs practiced in conservative ways is that it separates the chosen and the believer from the rest of the unenlightened. It can foster a mindset that devalues those outside of your camp. It places special emphasis on the experience that the believer goes through. But we all go through those experiences. We all get sick. We all lose loved ones. We lose a job or get a raise. we find a life partner, or we go through a divorce. But for the believer, these things are ordained by God. And there is a distinct judgment when unbelievers go through the exact same experience because they're not forgiven. There's always an excuse for the chosen ones. But for the sinner, it's considered judgment. It isn't fair. It seldom makes sense. And it devalues the basic human worth, which we all should recognize. Hate the sin, love the sinner almost never works. It's just seemingly another excuse to judge. I recognize the healthy ways that religion is practiced, with humility, with love shown to everyone that makes the follower a better person. But I wonder if it is this recognition of the web of life, the connections between us, that are so important. No matter what we believe, it is necessary to hold a respect for those that are different, to remember that each precious life is accorded value, and perhaps leaving the judging to God. We have differences which are cultural or religious, but in the end, we are the same. We are humans. This is by Catherine Clarenbach. We are children of earth, yes, and of starry heaven. We are of earth, and we are of black holes and supernova and red dwarfs and yellow stars. We are children of hydrogen exploding, of molecules coming into being, of all that the universe contains. The interconnected, interdependent web of existence is not only earthly, but universal. May it be so, and blessed be.